Hello and welcome to the Flix Forum podcast, where each episode we usually go back and we look at a Netflix original film in the order of release. However, today we have a special bonus episode where we're looking at a Netflix original film from 2025. It's the romantic comedy called The Wrong Paris. This one's directed by Janine Damian and stars Miranda Cosgrove, Pearson Fode, Madison Patisse, Frances Fisher, and Yvonne Orji. I am Jesse. I'm your host. Thanks for joining me today for this special bonus episode. As always, if this is a film you haven't quite seen yet, it's only been out for a few days, give us a pause and come back a little bit later on, because as we go, I'm going to give away a lot of what this film is about. So that's your warning, because we kick off with our Fast Flicks, where we do a quick little summary of what the film is all about. So this one's about a girl who's desperate to get to Paris for her art course, but ends up in the wrong Paris on a reality television dating show. Ooh, intriguing. Hopefully that intrigues you. This is a rom-com. It doesn't stray too far from the cliches and stereotypes that you'd be used to. So if that's what you're in for, this might be for you. Around the world, what is this called? So obviously the title in English, The Wrong Paris, means she didn't end up in Paris in France. She's in Paris in Texas. So in Spanish, it's called The Other Paris. Fine. In Chinese, it's called Oolong Paris Dreams. Interesting. In French, it's called Paris Lost. Okay. In Hungarian, it's called Another Paris. In Polish, Not This Paris. And in Russian, it's also Wrong Paris. So all play on that idea of this is the wrong location of where she wants to be. The tagline for this film was, "Romance gets a Texas-sized reality check." I actually quite like that tagline. I think it's great because we're talking about Paris in Texas, and this is a reality show, and obviously reality check, not only meaning that check of your actual physical reality, but also the idea of the check and the money that a reality TV show may come with, and will make more sense as we go. Principal photography for this film took place in Vancouver and Agassiz in British Columbia, so not in Paris at all, not in Texas. This was from September to October of 2024. Pearson Fode, he plays the love interest called Trey in this film. He actually made his acting debut on an episode of iCarly, which stars Miranda Cosgrove, who plays our lead female in this film, Dawn. So the two had actually been on screen together before. Apparently for this film, Miranda Cosgrove took a 6-hour welding class, and for a couple of scenes where she's welding some metals. So very interesting there. Miranda Cosgrove not only stars in this film, but also produces it. She said that she really likes working with Netflix. She said, everybody's so nice, especially in the rom-com department. All the people that I know, they're so collaborative and they made the experience so fun. I'd love to continue to work with them, she said. So we often see this with Netflix original films. People love working with Netflix because of, I guess, the creative control they get, as well as how easy it all seems to work for them. This was released worldwide on Netflix on the 12th of September 2025. As I said before, was filmed in Canada. What are the critics and audiences saying about this film? If we look on Rotten Tomatoes, it currently sits at 60%. That's only on 10 critic ratings. That is fresh. That is definitely fresh. Audience almost exactly the same, 59%. That's on more than 50 ratings. However, on that Rotten Tomatoes scale, 60 and above is fresh, 59 below is rotten. So the audience actually have it at rotten. On IMDb, it sits at a 6.2 out of 10. That's on 2,800 ratings. So that's fairly solid. Letterboxd a little bit lower, 2.6 out of 5 on 17,200-ish ratings, but it's been logged by 20,000 people. That's quite a lot in the early days for a rom-com on Netflix, and there is nothing on Metacritic for this film as of yet. Let's get into my early thoughts. What are my thoughts about this film? I had super low expectations for this because Netflix rom-coms are generally woeful and not my type of film. I'm going to talk a little bit different in this episode because I use this in class at school to look at how media and filmmaking has changed, especially when we're talking about the distribution through streaming. And I think that this is a perfect example to sort of look at, okay, this rom-com, would this have been successful with a cinematic release? And we're probably going to touch on that as we go throughout this discussion. So we're going to talk about the characters. Let's talk about the characters in this film. Our main protagonist is Dawn. She is this country town girl who dreams of getting out almost to follow her passion in art. Her parents passed away in a car accident, so her and her two sisters live with their grandma. They've dealt with loneliness, they've dealt with all that sort of stuff, and this whole passion, I guess, of Dawn in art is that she needs to save money to get out. And unfortunately, her grandma had a fall, so Dawn had to use the money she'd saved to go to art school in Paris. She had to spend on medical bills for her grandmother. So This is where it comes in that her sister convinces her to join this reality dating show to earn some cash and get a ticket to Paris and France as well. This is a character, Dawn, I believe, that she sort of tries to control every situation. And I think that she doesn't necessarily put this into her own self. She doesn't try to control her own outcomes. And I guess this is where she needs to commit herself, either for an art career or in finding love. And that's where we come across Trey. Trey is our bachelor type character on this reality television show, which I think the show was called The Honey Pot. And because the gist of the show is that at the end, he picks a girl on this show and decides whether she's going to stay with him or whether she's going to take the money, the honey pot. So he has this meet cute moment with Dawn weeks before the show even starts in this bar, and he was obviously already impressed with her already. So you can kind of see as an audience where this is probably going to go. Lexi is a character. She's a social media queen who is desperate for fame and attention, and obviously the attention of Trey on this show as well. So sort of just becomes Dawn's enemy or nemesis on the reality TV show. But she's not actually the worst of the worst sorts of characters that you could see in this type of film. Jasmine is another character on the show. She's a likable nerd who almost becomes Dawn's closest ally and friend on the reality show, and their friendship is quite nice in this as well. She's from Chicago, so this is a new experience for her being in Texas, and she falls quite obviously through the editing and the shots for the sound guy on the show, Oscar, so she's never actually seen as competition for Dawn to win over Trey's heart. The other females in this show, they're all purposeful stereotypes, which isn't a negative thing because they're trying to play on this idea of reality television. But we have, I think, Cindy or Cinderella. She wears a tiara and she's prim and proper. She's like this queen or this prom queen. We've got Amber, who's a flirty one. There's Heather, who's the tomboy. There's Eve, who's baby obsessed. So these are all those stereotypes that make the film humorous at times as well. The only other characters I'll touch on are Carl and Rachel. So Carl and Rachel, they're the producers on the reality show. Carl comes across as this pain, I guess, and thinks that Dawn is a bit boring and doesn't want her on the show, but Rachel's quite nice and wants to see Dawn succeed. So these characters actually bounce well off each other and provide some good moments as well. The director of this film, Janine Damian, this is her third directing credit, and guess what? This is her third Netflix original film. The other two, actually, Lindsay Lohan-driven films. The Falling for Christmas and Irish Wish Netflix original films that she's done. And she's produced a lot of Hallmark-like Christmas-type films as well. So this genre and style that she works in is obviously, she knows what she's doing. Some scenes. Let's talk about some scenes. What are some scenes in this film that worked? What are some scenes that didn't work? So for me, Eve, the baby-obsessed contestant, on the plane before the show even starts, she knocks back a glass of champagne because she says that I might be getting pregnant this week. I just thought that was quite funny. It also made me laugh when Trey is introduced to the girls. He comes riding in on this horse and they've got this smoke machine. Just these jokes about reality television, which were quite good. The Amber, the girls all get an opportunity, some one-on-one time to introduce themselves to Trey, and Amber introduces herself to Trey with this island necklace of like flowers, like a Hawaiian lei necklace, and he's like, what island are you from? And she's like, Cleveland, and he's like, well, thank you, it's a nice lei, and she's like, you have no idea. So that was quite humorous. Eve introduces herself, this is the baby chick, and she's got this photo. She goes, I got the producers to mock up a baby photo of what our baby would look like. I thought that was creepy and funny at the same time. The whole Dawn looking at Trey when he takes his shirt off. She's spying on him almost, and he's out the front of the barn with his horse. He takes his shirt off. He's hosing himself down. Dawn's fanning herself off. There's close-ups of his butt. I mean, that was quite humorous. I thought that was good as well. The whole Dawn and Trey tossling for his hat. And there's this clear setup. There's a trough of water behind them. There's this clear setup. She's going to fall in. You see this in all those romantic sort of movies. And she doesn't. I thought that was quite clever. Quite a good play. Or a quite, it rejects the genre conventions there a little bit too. Lexi's full stripper performance on the bucking bull. I don't know. I didn't necessarily like that. But she wins this date because she wins that with Trey, and they're in a spa, and Dawn's sort of being a bit creepy and watching from the side, and Lexi does that whole play of, I need a massage because my neck's so stiff from the riding bull or the bucking bull. And Dawn's just in the side saying, he's not going to fall for that. He's not going to fall for that. And then he does, and she's like, what an idiot. That was quite funny. There's an axe throwing challenge where Heather throws the axe and it bounces back off the target and knocks her out. That made me laugh. There's a challenge where the girls are paired up, and obviously it's reality television, so enemies Dawn and Lexi are put together, and the producers are like, we did that. And it's like, yes, we get that. That's very good. Well done. Oscar and his butt crack hanging out, that was humorous. And finally, Cindy, she's like shocked at being kicked off the show. It's all over the top, and she'd made it really clear that she wanted out in the scene before. I thought that was a really good sort of whack at what reality television is as well. Some things that didn't work. Not too much. There's a moment where Dawn steps in for her sister at the start. They're in this bar, and there's this guy that's being a bit gross. So she kicks him out of the bar and pours a drink on him. Probably could get the idea that she's a strong female character without violence. I'm not sure. That just didn't land too well. There's a scene where Dawn and Trey are in the kitchen on a date, and she goes to the pantry to get some ingredients, and all of the contestants are in there binging on food. I know it's a whack on reality TV, but I was just like, oh, come on, a bit lame. The horses, there's a moment where there's this siren that goes off and they all get loose and everyone's screaming. That was funny. But the way that Dawn and Trey managed to just chase after these horses and apparently get them all back, even though there's only this one shot of two horses sitting there, that was just rubbish. Dawn gets to Paris and she's sitting in a cafe. She's been kicked off the show, and Rachel, the producer, tracks her down to get her back on the show. And Dawn just happens to be drawing Trey on a horse in this cafe. Laughable. And the whole fakeness of Paris as a location that they were filming in was laughable. There was like blue lens flare and the Eiffel Tower and CGI, and the whole green screen looked so bad. So that was a really off-putting moment for me as well. But what's the film trying to say? What are some themes? What are some ideas? Obviously following your dreams and escaping that small town, I guess, that mentality of there's bigger and better things, but also remembering where you're from. That's important too. Lying plays a big part, and the impact and ramifications lying can have. And that leads into how important clear communication is as well. The independent female student who's willing to give it all away for a dream guy at the end. I mean, that's an interesting sort of concept, but that idea leads into the idea that true love can still work over long distances too, and reality television. They're not real. The push at times through the casting of these shows to have big social media stars on the show for ratings at times too, so that plays a part in this film as well. What did I take away from this film? I think the soundtrack I really enjoyed. I thought it was banging. It starts off with this French version of Boots Are Made for Walking. There's a version of Sex Bomb and a whole bunch of good country music. I really enjoyed the soundtrack. And I also think they did a good job of making fun of reality television and shows and how they're made, the tropes and the stereotypes. I thought that was really good. And that ties in too. I thought they did this well through Trey taking Dawn away for a day away from the set in his truck, and they're away from the camera. And these were some real moments rather than the fake ones that are created by producers. So I thought that was good as well. All right. Some questions, some pondering, some thoughts, some ideas. Dawn, at the start, she's got this money jar that she's saving up to go to Paris, and she still had $30,000 set aside for her first year of school. How good a job does that bar pay that she's working at? Because if she's had to pay for her grandmother's medical bills as well, it's wild that she still had $30,000 left over. That's crazy. Ooh, there's a little bit of thunder and lightning in the background there. Apologies. The soundproofing of this room is not great. The Levi, ex-boyfriend of Dawn, rocks up at the bar when she's working, and it just didn't seem like it was needed. Why was he needed? There was no need to put him in the film. And I'm also not sure if I missed it, but it felt like they did a good job at times of being like, cool, this person's being kicked off, without actually doing the whole, not the rose ceremony, but the the horseshoe ceremony or whatever it was. But there was like this organic farm challenge where that we cut to the date, and then after the next day, I thought they were going to kick someone off. I feel like that was sort of left out. And there's a couple of little quotes and some ideas that I saw online. So The Guardian, in relation to the film, they said that the shoddy editing that nearly cuts off lines, there's camera work so front focused that it looks filmed in iPhone portrait mode, and framing that wraps inexplicably into near fisheye. This is obviously a shot at some of the filming techniques in this film, so they obviously didn't like it. And the other hand though, Mamma Mia said that they believe by now Netflix has developed its own genre of rom-com, and they say that these films have a specific look, feel, and sound, and they say that The Wrong Paris ticks every single box and does it with vigor. It's cheesy, yes. It's predictable, yes. There's stunning scenery, yes. And it's stuffed full of beautiful faces and megawatt smiles, of course. So the opposite. So the idea that you need to sometimes, yes, some of the actual production side of things aren't great, but if you sit in there on board for what this is and knowing what it's going to be and sit back and enjoy it, maybe you can enjoy it too. And I guess that's where I'm going to sort of touch on the idea that I was looking at this film in class for Netflix and how they put together a film and how that's changed, I guess, with the distribution of film over time. So for me, like I just wanted to sort of look at a few different topics in relation to how this film's put together. So I'm going to break this down a little bit. This is a little bit of a different breakaway from the normal structure, but narrative and storytelling wise, I want to know, and I've got a couple of questions that I'm going to answer myself, hopefully, and see how we go in relation to this film, The Wrong Paris. So the question is the film structured in a way that suits home streaming audiences? I think so. Like episodic pacing, even in this film, sort of plays out that it doesn't necessarily mean you have to be paying attention the whole time while watching this film. You can jump in and out, whether you're doing the dishes or whether you're doing your dinner in the kitchen. You can probably just have it on in the background and still know what's going on and not have to see every single scene to know exactly what's happening. So I think that's interesting too. Are there cultural references or language references or humor aimed at a global Netflix audience rather than an American one in this film? I think that was interesting. I tried to have a think while I was watching it, and there's a mention at the start, that bar scene I was talking about before with Miranda Cosgrove's character Dawn, and the ex-boyfriend comes in and she makes mention that he's dating some girl that works at DQ. So DQ is Dairy Queen, which is obviously a very American reference that some people may not get if they are watching this film outside America. And the other idea, like, does the story feel risk-taking or niche compared to blockbuster cinema? I think it's very much not a blockbuster type of film. This is a type of film that probably just sits there and, churns up hours on Netflix for what they make this film for anyway. And if we're talking about the visual style and the cinematography, like, is the cinematography suited to a home screen? Like, are there a lot more close-ups and less reliance on big wide shots? Yes, I'd 100% say that is how this film's put together. It's not made for a big screen. It's made for people either viewing it on their phone or on their iPad or in their lounge. And I'll probably talk a little bit about the special effects soon, but that's how this film's made as well, on the cheap. The color, the lighting, the design, it definitely doesn't feel cinematic. It's more like prestige TV too. And the special effects, like the values, are they comparable to a cinematic release? Not really. I sort of touched on the idea that, especially when they're in Paris, that they just don't hold up. The effects do not hold up at all. The target audience and the genre conventions are used throughout this film. They're played on almost at times too, especially if we're thinking about shows or television shows like The Bachelor and the stereotypes of the characters. So this does tie in with a lot of Netflix original television programming too. For people that love their reality shows, this is the type of film that, like the rom-com film, that ties in with those that might like those shows too. And I think that, a mainstream audience can 100% jump on board with this and understand what it is without also needing to understand the references to reality television as well. The cast and the representation of the cast, I think they do a pretty good job throughout the film. We've obviously got the Rachel character, who's African-American. You've got Miranda Cosgrove playing off a white guy. And these are obviously talent that they started off as youth talent on Nickelodeon, iCarly, as well as the Disney Channel shows. And the idea too that the lead, the guy that plays, what's his name, Trey, the idea that also he's on The Bold and the Beautiful, so he definitely appeals to an international audience who... Bold and the Beautiful, one of the most watched television shows around the world as well. So I think that's interesting as well. So the film, it doesn't appear to have a high budget. No, not at all. This is made on the cheap. And obviously you go film in Vancouver for this film, you do get some tax deductions and some tax benefits from there as well. And I think the visual quality or scale has obviously been touched on many times throughout as well. And obviously Netflix, they don't release films for cinemas. So the accessibility of this film is designed for a streaming release. It's not designed for cinemas, so that's why they can probably cut back a bit on the special effects. And yes, they might stand out some of the poor effects, but they'd stand out even worse if they were on a big screen as well. So definitely wouldn't work there as well. Suits streaming 100%. I think being able to watch it at home too, you can pause, you can rewind. Watching this with a class, I can pause and discuss what's going on and what we're talking about, as well as the idea of, for me in particular, this film, I think I enjoyed a lot more than I would if I watched this by myself. Just the communal experience of watching with others and being able to laugh out loud and find things enjoyable that I may not if I was watching in my house by myself with no one there as well. I think that obviously Netflix brand this as one of their rom-coms. You can see it on their screen when you scroll through. This is number one as of now. We haven't had the weekly updates from Netflix on how well it did over the weekend, but I'm suggesting that it's probably going to rate pretty highly across the world, because in Australia it's still sitting in that number one slot a few days in from its release as well. Overall, I think this film obviously is suited for Netflix, and that's a clear thing. We've changed in our distribution and our creation of films, that this is the type of film that may have in the past gone straight to video release or VHS release, and now we're in a streaming age where what better way than to pop this out worldwide straight away on a digital platform where more people can see it, and good on Netflix for having that model as well. All right, I'm ready to wrap this show up. This is where we give the film a rating out of 5. So I've been pretty positive, very surprised, very positive on this film, because this is the type of film that I usually groan about. But I think I sort of touched on it's the communal experience of watching this with others made me enjoy it more than I probably should have or would have. I think if I was watching this by myself, I probably wouldn't have liked it as much. But I found it quite funny. And I probably wasn't focused too much on how bad some of the craft actually was, because I was enjoying it. So I'm giving this a 3 out of 5. It's probably super high for me. And if I watch this again, I probably wouldn't give it as high a rating, but I enjoyed this. I'm giving this a 3 out of 5. We're on socials. We're on Instagram. We're on Facebook, and we're on X, formerly known as Twitter. So if you can give us a follow or a like, that would be great. The question that I wanted to put out in relation to this film is, does this film get a sequel? Will they make a second film to show us where Trey and Dawn are up to? Are they living in France together? I know over the credits, and it was quite nice, over the credits we got some still images that showed that they'd been married and that they're going to Dallas games together. But give us another adventure of these two, maybe some conflict in their relationship. And again, I didn't touch on this, but it was nice to see over the credits some outtakes, some outtakes. It's not very often you see that. It's almost like this is that structure of the old rom-com from like the 1990s or early 2000s that we're used to. So do you reckon there'll be a sequel? Will this be popular enough, and will Netflix get on board to make another one? Let us know in the comments. Other than that, back on Monday for our regular episodes. We do have over 450 episodes of Netflix original films. So if there is a Netflix film that you've seen and you're interested in listening to me talk about it, please jump on board, have a listen. Other than that, I'll see you on Monday.